to stay out of the rain and keep yourself dry. If you can find shelter, please do so. If you're drenched, I offer you my sincerest apology. I'm sorry. Do take heart, because I know some people definitely will get drenched because of the weather. It's not very, very pleasant if you're in the rain at this moment. But anyway, conversations have to continue right now, and we have a follow-up of a conversation we had about 3 weeks ago. It was about education, when I did make mention about some secondary and primary schools that were freakishly expensive according to some Nigerians. The question I asked then, why are secondary and primary schools, basically the UBE, the Universal Basic segment, more expensive than tertiary education? Now, my guest this morning is Dr. Alfred Oladapo. Let's get to meet him once again. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Jude. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. This is the first time I have actually had an interview with you.
That's right.
Yes, in the studio. Yeah, but I've been listening for years with the iLead program and all the various interviews that you've had.
That's
here.
right.
So it's a pleasure to officially meet you in person.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. So you got to listen to that conversation, and we had a very engaging conversation about it. And then it's going to lead us to our big question this morning. Yeah, so if you missed that conversation, I did tell you some schools in this country, primary and secondary schools, pay as much as 20 million naira a year as school fees. Some schools 1.5, 1.8. Some universities, some private universities, have a cost between 450,000 to about 1.5, 1.2 million. There are a few universities in this country that actually pay close to that 10 million naira mark. But the big one for us that day, and that's where Dr. Oladapo is going to come in, is the fact that the secondary schools, primary schools, they're paying 1.5. I have my brother's boss in Abuja. She pays, as at 3 years ago, she was paying 1.5 million as school fees for somebody who was in primary 3 back then. 1.5. So I was curious. Oh, they organize this, they do that. They have music lessons, there's taekwondo lessons, and all of that. All of these things, on the surface, should make for quality education. But something tells me my guest has a different view.
Well, it all depends, Jude. I think most of the things that you find they're putting on the agenda for charging exorbitantly.
So you think it's exorbitant?
Well, again, technically so. Because you got to ask yourself a lot of questions. What you put in terms of the fees you pay for the students, when they eventually get out, how many times does the result actually match the cost?
Okay.
Because you got to be able to put that, side by side. You got people who didn't go to too expensive schools, and yet, they're very successful in life. Some of the people that probably made the best results in the last WAEC or something like I think there was a day that I had to interview someone that made a straight A's or something like that.
Yes. I'm
not too sure she probably went to one of the most expensive schools, in Nigeria. So being expensive may not directly, I haven't seen a correlation that says being expensive, it has a direct correlation. Okay, with excellence. Okay, no, or with intelligence.
No, Mr. Alfred, I need to bring that notion to you, because it's not just a Nigerian factor. It's a system that is operational globally. You have private universities and private schools all over, and they're usually more expensive. Case in point, a lot of people may not know that some of the, in quotes, royalties in the UK tend to attend a certain number. There are only a very limited number of schools that they can attend, and so some people who are able to afford to maybe take their children to maybe Oxford, Cambridge, these two schools in particular, are very likely to mingle with individuals who have, as it were, keys to the corridors of power. Boris Johnson, for example, is a clear example of one of such individuals who was opportune to attend some of these schools. A lot of members of parliament and lords of parliament also can find their heritage and trace their roots to people who were either former members or still went through those schools.
I have no doubt about that. But no, you got to ask, again, does that really fit into our own context? You see, when it comes to, there's a perspective of running education for impact. There's also the perspective of running education or school, basically to target profit. And if you and that's just the truth. And if you are looking at it in terms of, is this for impact or is this for profit? That's the big question you have to ask, yourself. Some of the schools you're talking about, in UK, you have similar, thing in the US. They have what they call the Ivy League schools.
Ivy League schools.
Okay, where you have, the Harvard, the MIT, the Princeton, the Yale.
Yeah, Princeton, Yale.
Now, these are schools that have become brands over the years. I had a conversation with someone last week, and he said, there's something that shocked him about Harvard. They gave somebody admission. And before the person resumed, Harvard withdrew the admission because there was a post or so that he did on Facebook, which they consider, that's not been in tandem with what they represent. And they withdrew the admission saying that our would-be product,
wow,
mark the word, our would-be product, not essentially that our product. So there are some of these schools that you go at that kind of level that you can't be roaming around looking for jobs. That's the truth. You can't go to a place like Yale and say, I came out, and then you're roaming the streets in the US. It's almost impossible. You can't go to a place like Harvard and say, I don't have a job. If for anything, you are like hot cake. Because the engineering you are probably going to read in the regular school, probably for about maybe $15,000, $18,000 a year. In some of those Ivy League schools, you're like going to pay $60,000. They are not just giving you an education, they're also giving you a future. They're already placing you in the mind of the society that you came from a particular, grade of humanity, where there is sanity and all these things. So, but you see, you can't cascade that down straight to secondary school. Really? Can you use a secondary school certificate?
But can we actually say that? Because if we say for Harvard it works, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, Oxford,
Cambridge, sure.
Yeah, all of these schools I've just mentioned are renowned anywhere in the world.
True.
So if there was maybe that's what some of these schools are doing, they're trying to build that kind of rep, if I can say so. Won't it still cascade? Because it's not just secondary schools, even the universities. Like I said, there are a few universities, private universities owned here in Nigeria, where some individuals pay as much as 3.5 million per session, per annum as school fees. So if those kind of schools, for example, find their way to become reputable, won't that also cascade to that?
I love your language. If they find their way to be reputable. So it takes time to build a brand. It takes years to build a brand. And if you're going to build a brand in a very short time, then you've got to get the best brains from wherever you can get them. How many of these schools that we're talking about, charging this kind of amount,
20 million,
how many of them probably have professors, from a place like Harvard that are teaching on their faculty, or a place like Cambridge, or a place like Oxford, or Yale? Because you see, if you start a university, and then you probably go to, the government universities, to pick lecturers, you're not really preparing a brand. That is a regular brand. That's the truth. It's a regular brand. Because this set of lecturers, they work in a particular continuum with a particular mentality. And what the private universities, try to replicate, but they pick all their teachers, most of them.
In the Nigerian context.
In the Nigerian context. That's right. So it's just a relocation of mentality. It is not a change of mentality. The thing with the private schools is that while you're sure if you get in for 4 years course, you're likely going to finish in 4 years.
True.
Because you're likely not going to have your
strikes.
Your professors going on strike, the facilities you need in terms of water, electricity and the rest of them, they're well guaranteed. Now, it might take a lot, to generate that. I don't play down on that. But when you look at it in the context of maybe a secondary school, that's where you can't use a secondary school certificate to go and get a job somewhere, anywhere in the world. To say, okay, I went to secondary school, so I have 9 straight A's. Good for you.
I have swimming lessons, I have taekwondo lessons.
So the question is, so if I have swimming lessons, I have taekwondo lessons, I visited, my school took me to Dubai 3 times, throughout the training and things like that.
Why do they do that?
Well, they will probably be in the best position to explain. They will probably be. So I think, say, you can always create a kind of, like a phantom fantasy in the minds of men just to try to make a difference in the society. There's no doubt about it. In any field, any arena at all, you can create that phantom. But will that phantom become a reality? Because you see, at that kind of level that we're talking about secondary school, it doesn't matter what your school offers. The only thing you will take away as a memory is your result. Now, at university level, you're taking much more than that away. And it can be very challenging and at the same time very engaging. Some of the schools you mentioned as universities, in UK, in the US, the Ivy League schools. See, you build a legacy, you build a network. They're not just giving you a classroom education, they're giving you a network. That, you only have to be on that network. And that, look, half of your success in life is guaranteed. Except you choose to mess up.
Some Nigerian parents will argue the same with their primary and secondary school choices for their children, because they tell you that these are some of the schools some of the captains of industries send their children to. Some international, the diplomatic corps, for example, who are resident in Nigeria, they have to send their children to school.
True.
Yeah, so they send them to certain type of schools, and those type of schools will afford their own children to engage, to interact, build friendships. It's those kind of friendship that their friends will say, mommy, so James saying that there's this place that we can go and do this thing. And the parents say, oh, wow, if I didn't have my friend, if I didn't have my son or my daughter there, I wouldn't know this. That's the network that they're also providing.
At that kind of level, I don't argue if that kind of network is being provided, if that kind of latitude is being provided. But do a study and you find out how many of the schools are providing that. The school that maybe a diplomat's child will probably go, for example, will likely be mixing up with the regular kind of children. You're talking of elitist schools now. And you're talking of, these are just allowing their children to go to school here. They're likely going to go to university here. Mark it. How many diplomats children, probably end up in a place at University of Lagos, or University of Ibadan, or University of Nsukka, or University of Port Harcourt. So what they are offering is more than paper. So they're offering them the classroom stuff, but they're also offering them to go back home and integrate. In fact, in those days, a lot of the missionaries that came into Africa, most of their wives were on full payment, because they have to homeschool the children through primary, through secondary, and then they send them back to home to go and do their universities. Most of them didn't do their universities here. No. So at the kind of level whereby okay, you have this kind of class of people going in there, you don't have a problem. Captains of industries that send their children to that kind of school, how many of their children when they finish from that kind of school, end up in a place like University of Jos or University of Sokoto or Usman Danfodio University? So it's not an immediate thing. It's also a futuristic thing. That's almost like a replication of what the Ivy League schools do. They only try to bring it down. Okay, can we start it maybe much earlier? And of course, there are certain kind of schools you will go that can give you a latitude to get into certain kind of universities, at a particular level. That is it. That's a given.
Okay, now if you're just joining us, my guest Alfred Oladapo. So, apologies, they are saying that too quickly. It's my guest this morning. It's a business consultant, a trainer, anything concerning the world of business. It has a bit of a, like we like to say in old school language, he has his hand in the cookie jar as regarding business. Training a lot of people, is giving insight into how business should work, creating leaders, also a mentor for many. That is the caliber of person we have this morning joining us in the studio. Now we'll go for a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll be switching our conversation very briefly because we have the news at the bottom of the hour. we'll be talking about the morals, and this is where the business side, as it were, comes to meet the life side of our conversation. So if you have a son or a daughter in an expensive private secondary and primary school, this conversation is just for you. Once again, it's Hello Port Harcourt. My name is Jude.
Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817 001 8162. That is 0817 001 8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817 001 8162. That is 0817 001 8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817 001 8162. That is 0817 001 8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 081.
All right, so welcome back. Hello, Port Harcourt. My name is Jude. Now, before we get to the news, we're going to take the other part of this conversation this morning. Once again, Dr. Alfred, it's a pleasure to have you here. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking out the time to speak to us. Now, after the headline news, we're going to start to engage you with your views and join us in the conversation. But now, let's get to the second part of this conversation this morning. It's all about education. And the big question I have is, does the formal education system help our students become good citizens? Now, this is where I was intrigued over the weekend, having to read all through the newspapers and the things that I get to follow every day. Very often, and this is from a man called Rajiv Lokan Das, an International University of Business, Agriculture, and Technology. He says, very often we see that educated people commit crimes in their everyday lives. Societies are different. Crimes are also different in terms of intensity. The question arises, does this formal education that we want to give our children, our loved ones, help our students become good citizens? Is it not expected that for someone to be, in quotes, educated, to act better and have better moral values than others? Is it true that the moral sense in humanity is connected to formal education? In the Nigerian education space, I'm sure you've seen this as well before we get to the news. When you are granted your certificate, towards the end, or sometimes in some universities at the beginning, it's stated, Mr. So-so-and-so has been found worthy in character and learning. But the, in quote, Yahoo boys, the, in quote, runs girls, the, in quote, politicians, governors, a lot of governors that we have in this country, at least in this present disposition, claim to have gone to universities. We have lawyers who are governors right now. We have lawyers who have been ministers, commissioners, even police officers are lawyers. But Nigerians come up with the question that is moral decadent. What say you?
There's a difference between going to school and getting an education. That somebody went to school didn't mean they got an education. I think that's one of the fantastic things that we seem to overlook. The second major thing, one of my professors at Harvard always said this: you get an education by degrees, but degrees are not education.
Oh, please, you have to repeat that again.
Yeah, one of my professors always say you get education by degrees, but degrees are not education. Because you could do whatever you want to get a paper degree that says something, but does that really reflect who you are? Is it really inside of you? Is a big question. So when we talk about maybe educated people, committing more crimes and things like that, let's say, if you got an education, you have a certain level of mind development beyond someone who probably didn't go. Because within the campuses, there are things you will learn that would never be taught in any school in the world. It's not taught in any classroom. I mean, you got some roommates that are just recalcitrant. You got guys that are very nice, and you got guys that they just tend to cause trouble all over the place. You learn how to live with such people over time. But Jude, we can't shift the responsibility for the character of people to educational institutions. Basically, it begins from the home. Say, parents are supposed to teach morals. Now, professors are supposed to model morals.
We are going to continue this conversation right after the headline news. 90.3 Nigeria Info.
Headline News, Nigeria Info on 92.3. Headline News.
Hello, good morning. I am Ifeanyi Andrew. River State Government flags off construction of Ogunabali Eastern Bypass Road. Bus drivers protest along NTA Ozoba Road over shooting of their colleague. Threatens to continue protest for 1 week. PDP lawmakers stage walkout during plenary over Twitter ban. House of Representatives to invite Minister of Information Lai Mohammed over suspension of Twitter. Federal government to constitute new board for NDDC. In business, price for bag of onion doubles in River State. In entertainment, Nigerian singer Thames nominated for 2021 BET Awards. In sports, Anambra State government gives 10-year-old girl Stephanie Onuzurike, who emerged overall best gymnast at the National Sports Festival in Edo State, a check of over 2 million naira. On the foreign scene, Vice President of the U.S. Kamala Harris faces pressure to visit U.S.-Mexico border. You can contact our newsroom on 0818-900-0017. Thank you for listening.
Information when you need it. News as it breaks. Plus a chance to talk about matters arising. These and more you get on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Your number one talk news and sports station.
Yes, your number one talk news and sports radio station is back. Hello, Port Harcourt. My name is Jude, and today we're having a continuance of a conversation we had 3 weeks ago about education, the cost of education. And now, my guest, Alfred Oladapo, has literally set the table on fire. I'd like to have him repeat the last comment from his professor back in university.
Okay, as one of my professors back at Harvard used to say, you get education by degrees, but degrees are not education.
There you have it. Degrees are not education.
You can go to school, but it doesn't mean you got any education. Because the citadel of learning is supposed to be a transformation center. But the question we got to ask is, are people being transformed? Absolutely, yes. They're either being transformed positively or transformed negatively. The downside of it many times is people go to school only to get information. They don't get transformation.
Now we come to the Nigerian sector. We are going to be opening the phone lines in the next 5 minutes because we have a lot to talk about, and I really want to get to hear your views on the subject matter. So, if people are getting to school and basically getting information, why then is there so much emphasis on, in quote, these tertiary or higher level of education in a bid to develop our country. We often hear people, yes, education is a right. But if people are getting, in your own words now, information but not transformation, where does the transformation occur?
The transformation occurs in a continuum. It's an aggregate of several other factors, not just a classroom thing. So I mentioned something a while ago. Parents are supposed to teach morals. So when I was growing up, even when I didn't know anything, anything you're going to do outside, the first thing you're thinking of, if my mother hears this, if my father hears this. Now, how much of that do you have, these days? But almost non-existent to a great degree.
But we still have individuals. I get to see children, primary school, secondary school, in different, whether they're in the public and private sector. Sometimes I engage with them. I've been fortunate to engage with a few of them. And some of them say, oh, I want to do this. But my mommy says, there's so, even online, we have so many jokes where somebody tries to imitate the child and say, but my mommy said, or my daddy says. So our parents still have a very pivotal role in our development. But you've heard, and I'm very sure you've heard many parents make complaints that when Neka was in the house, he was not doing this. But as soon as she got into university and came out, my Neka, my sweet innocent girl, has turned into something else. My sweet innocent boy, Undubisi, is no longer as respectful. Tunde is not as responsible as he used to be before when they got to university.
You see, when education at home is simply geared towards gagging and, of course, brainwashing without allying and integration or exposing people to the likely things they are going to meet outside there, you are going to have dysfunctional people when you get to university. You're going to have misaligned individuals because all of a sudden they have freedom that is unguided. And when freedom is unguided, it becomes very dangerous. Because now in secondary school, I mean, you got your timetable regulated for you.
Yes.
You got to go to prep at this time. You got to go have your lunch, have your dinner at this time. It's lights out at this time. You can't open the door of your room anymore. Just go and sleep, and that's it. But when you get to university, it's a whole world of freedom. You can choose not to go for lectures.
Very true.
So, someone now says that, okay, look, all these things they have been forcing me to do since. For God's sake, now I got my own life. So you can have the influence of other students on campus, those who came just to come and waste their time. Because it's not everybody that went to university that want to come out turn out good and went there with a goal. It's like, well, everybody is going. I mean, I do a lot of stuff with different schools, universities, and you hear some students say, well, I don't really want to come to this quiz. My father that asked me to come.
Yes.
You've heard that several times.
Yes.
Oh, well, this is not the course I want to read.
I'm just to make my father happy.
That's right. This is not the course I want to read. So by the time I probably fail 1 year, 2 years, they will send me to Canada. I don't want to be here. So there is what we call the intentional misbehavior that goes on within the system. But there's also the institutional misbehavior, which may be covered up by the authorities within the school. In terms of what system do we have in place to ensure that students are not extorted? So all these schools you are mentioning all over the world and things like that, there are things you can't do because there are ethics and values that set up those schools. I'll give you an example. Part of my story back in the States, I traveled back to Nigeria one time. I went to South Africa. And then there's this very fanciful type of pen that I bought. So I bought quite a number of them and then took them back to the US. Gave quite a number to my friends. None of my lecturers took it from me. Not one. In fact, pen. Professor Penata, said categorically, Alfred, you need to go and check your, your student manual. He said, Harvard has a policy. I can't take anything from any student as long as I'm your lecturer. If you want to give me this pen, then you have to keep it until after 2 years. When you're no more in my class, I don't have anything to do with you. He said, but I can't take anything from you. And go check it. It's true.
But Isn't it a cultural thing? Because we live in a country where giving is part of the norm. You see a man who is likely you're older, and we have that phrase: your gift will make a way for you. Your gift make it a way for the man. Oh, good afternoon, sir. Welcome. I got you this rice. I got you this broom, or I got you this new wristwatch. The wristwatch is not very nice. I take this, but we do that.
I understand you, Jude, but how many of those gifts, will not color the judgment of the receiver? I'll be glad, if someone gives a gift to a lecturer and the guy still fails. The guy didn't read and he got an F. You begin to send a strong message. Yeah, you if you want to give anything, that's fine, but it has nothing to do with your performance. It has nothing to do with your grade. Some of these things are likely being given, to tint the perspective of the one who's going to assess you. And Harvard had that policy that, okay, fine, don't even do it. We don't want to trust that maybe, you will still be, in your right senses when you are grading the papers of the students. So it's against. So secondly, because you're talking of the values and then character. Students assess if a lecturer is going to continue lecturing by the following semester. In most of this university that you're talking about, yes. For every of my class I attended at Harvard, you have what they call an evaluation form, and it is anonymous. And there are quite a number of questions. They will ask you finally, do you think this lecturer should continue teaching in this institution? They will ask you point blank. Should continue teaching this course? If you have quite a number of times I say, well, he made me uncomfortable, I don't like the way he talks, you didn't take himself seriously, and things like that, that lecturer is going. So when we talk about, those kind of reputable schools, we just hear about them until you get somebody on the inside that tells you what actually happens.
So would you say in these, in quote, Ivy League schools,
yes,
some level of moral, some level of transformation occurs?
There's a lot, I would say a lot of transformation occurs. Because I was blown away. My first test, in one of my courses, I got 93 over 100. Jude, it's like I should just go to heaven and hug the Lord that I could get 93. Because the Nigerian thing is that if you manage to even score 60, you need to probably go to church for Thanksgiving. In my time, lecturers will tell you clearly that nobody's going to get an A in this course. It's criminal in serious institutions. But that's not the end of the story. The guy that was sitting next to me, Jimmy, is an American. And when I look at my paper, 93, I was so happy. And I was just smiling, grinning from ear to ear. And he asked me, he said, Alfred, you're in a high spirit. I said, yeah, I got 93. And he was excited. He just looked at me and he said, you could have gotten 100. You probably made some stupid mistakes.
Oh, wow. Really?
I'm telling you the truth. Why was I elated? Because look, if you get 69 in any course at Harvard, you fail. Passing grade is 70. In Nigeria, if you get 70, you get an A. If you get a 70 in Harvard, you get a D.
But the lecturer has already told you.
I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the lecturer already told you you can't get 80 because my course is too difficult. So maybe that's why we're at par.
Yeah, I don't think it's because I don't think anything is too difficult for anybody to be able to do if they set their heart at it. But you see, there is what we call the upfront demoralization that comes with most of our, the system we operate here. You see, when you place a ceiling that, look, sorry, nobody's going to get an A in this course. So people should be struggling for C and D. And I don't know what probably the passing grade is right now, but in those days it will be 40. Jude, you ask yourself, 40 is not even half of 100.
And that's the passing grade.
And that's the passing grade.
Begs the question. Well, it's time for us to get to hear from you, join the conversation. So, when exactly is a moral impacted into the student? Is it the responsibility of the educational service to impart morals? And I'm sure, Dr. Alfred, you've seen signposts of schools, secondary schools. Come, bring your child here. We will put sound moral values into your child. And he's saying it's not exactly true. So where do you stand on this? 017-923-0002, 017-923-0003, 0007. And then the female caller line is 0817 923 0009. WhatsApp and Telegram 0809 030 6416. At Nigeria Info PH is the handle on Facebook. Hello, good morning to you and welcome.
Good day, sir.
Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
I'm Ike by name, calling from Obibo.
Welcome, Ike.
Before I go ahead to make my own input, I want to commend your guest for his objectivity. Well done, sir.
Well, thank you.
Please, I can't just know how to start it. The certificate issued to every graduate, there's learning and in character. Mm-hmm. We are missing out in character. Sorry to say it, most Nigerian graduates are only in learning. We are missing out in the character. These are the two key words in that certificate. Mm-hmm. You have been satisfied fit in learning and in character. Many Nigerian graduates are missing out in character. That's number one. Number two, school simply means passing through the school and the school pass through you. Passing through the school and the school pass through you. We are missing out in that area.
Okay. We're missing out in that area. Upoma Chiomi on Facebook says, formal education in today's era is just formalities. It isn't a guarantee for good citizenship. What is even good citizenship? One needs to have a good understanding of the essence of it. As even after all, students will still turn out to be hoodlums, unknown gunmen, unmanned gun, known some. It's all about discipline, principles, set out for oneself, and that makes one a good citizen. With or without formal education, bad citizens must exist. Back to you, Dr. I remember one individual, one of my family friends who I stayed with in the University of Port Harcourt, Professor Ijele. One day we had a conversation, and she's an educator, just like you, and she said, there were individuals that came in a particular year to the university. Most of them had their background shaky. By the time they passed through her department with her lecturers, when they were graduating, you could tell that this person is not the same person that got into this university. They could speak English better, but they were also acting better. What was peculiar, and why isn't that kind of system that this woman I just mentioned now, Professor Jelly, what did she do? What was she doing right that most schools are not doing in their own mini community?
I think it will depend on the individual. So, if you make people believe in themselves and tell them they can make it, and let them know that, no, one of my professors always said, what men have done before, men can do again. That, if you create an environment that make people feel safe, that make them understand they are here to learn, and they can learn, and you are ready to help them to learn. It's a threefold thing. Mm-hmm. They can learn, they are here to learn, and you are ready to help them to learn. Now, but so when you paint a picture that word, like, I'm not your mate. I don't even know what you are doing here, if not for what they call it. I mean, there was a time, I'm involved with a lot of recruitment. Yeah. Because the last speaker talked about, maybe what we actually want to do is to learn. I can guarantee you, to a long extent, in my experience, when people apply for jobs and have to probably go through their CV, you ask yourself, so where is the English in this? Where are the tenses? Everything is just upside down. You got someone, walk into the recruitment room, unkept, untidy, in his head, cannot put his ideas together. So you ask, so what did he really learn? Because you see, intelligent organizations today, and I can give this information out free, they don't do aptitude tests. Read my lips, Jude. They don't do aptitude tests. They do what we call a competency test. Because aptitude is, I know it. Competency is, I can do it. Organizations are not looking for people who know. They're looking for people who can do, who can deliver. If you can't deliver, then too bad. So you got a lot of people that are probably coming out of our institutions who probably, just went through memorizing things and they can get first class. But you say they are not first class candidates when it comes to getting the job outside there. Sometimes third class candidates are better.
Okay, all right. Let's get to read more messages. Dr. Alfred, you're blowing my mind with this policy of lectures and gifts. Imagine a lecturer rejecting a pen from a student. Over here, the opposite is the case. All right, okay. Thank you very much. Talking about the exploitation of private schools in Nigeria, especially Port Harcourt mothers. I have a friend whose 4 children pay 12, Jesus is Lord, 12 million naira each a year in that's 14 million naira in Lagos. I know the curriculum is still the same. I have a daughter in one of the private universities, mainly because of government failure to their duties. More money does not guarantee better performance or unhealthy and corrupt practices from both the students and the teachers. Most of these teachers are empty, but the parents are blinded by the high cost of tuition. Chisara, with that comment.
That's true. You know, we just said something very similar to that at the beginning. Being expensive, okay, doesn't really mean excellence, doesn't guarantee quality. We just seem to have, we have a penchant here that anything that is monetary, it must be very, very good. Why is it that, we have the most expensive legislature, in Africa and probably, in the world? And sometimes, the education system we're running, it's not helping people in the 21st century. In the 21st century in secondary school and even university, professors and teachers, their role has been redefined in the 21st century, not just to teach, but they have become facilitators of knowledge, facilitators of learning. So if the person that is going to facilitate the learning, is what he has that he's going to give to you. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So if they're facilitators of learning, teachers are in the 21st century, professors and teachers are called digital migrants. Students these days are known as digital students. They live in a digitalized world. But most of the teachers that are teaching in the university, in the many of them are analog. How many have been able to migrate themselves to that kind of level? Yeah. How many of our universities, teach with PowerPoints? And the PowerPoint slides are done appropriately. I mean, one of my friends, has his child in one of the universities, one of the most highly rated universities in Nigeria. And I had to organize a training. When I went to Lagos, I had a training for CEOs, which is 155 deadly mistakes that CEOs make to destroy their organizations. So we talked about it at home, with his dad, when I was leaving that morning. And then when I came back, he said, well, sir, can you just give us one training before you go? So we had a mini entrepreneurial training for him, his friends, and some of the neighbors. And guess what that guy said, first of all? He said, sir, I wish my professors know how to do PowerPoint. Because according to him, the PowerPoint, notes run from the edge of the slide to the bottom of the slide. Almost 20 lines, they can hardly read it. But that's supposed to be one of the most highly rated private university in the world. Yeah. So having the technology doesn't also mean that you know how to use it. Because some of the schools that you go, including secondary schools, they can have all the high-rated technology. But they say if you have analog, facilitators for that, you're just creating a dysfunctional society.
Okay. All right, let's take our final call. 92.3, good morning, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, please.
Yes. Unfortunately, I'm a teacher.
Okay.
The problem we have in our educational system is quite pathetic because even the parents are the one that is aiding corruption in the schools. Imagine, we are not talking about even in the university. We told them, we have a 6334 system in Nigeria. But do you know that even in the primary 6, I don't think nobody has a primary 6 school, in the private schools especially. When you go to the university, secondary school, you will see a parent, but after paying so much school fees, will still come to the teacher to make sure that their children passes their work. They will pay 100,000 naira, 50,000 naira for the children, those little children. So from the little age, you have started teaching the child corruption. So when the child goes to the university, what do you expect the child to do?
What do you expect the child to do? All right, we have to wrap up our conversation this morning. I knew that we would not have enough time to do this. We are definitely going to have a continuance. There are aspects of this that we were not able to touch. But on this matter, how would you want to encourage? I'll just give you a minute. How do you want to encourage parents to start to see education in this country? Not everybody's going to be able to travel out. That's the truth.
That's very true. I think the first thing parents need to do is to let them do their assignment at home first. Because all these things you just had the last quarter. When parents do that, and then that same child knows what the parent has done, and then he goes to university. So it's just going to continue now. So it's handed over to him. So technically, what we're doing is we're buying certificate in an official market price. But so it's not a company, with knowledge that can help us compete favorably, internationally, or even make a better nation.
Well, the conversation does not stop here. It really doesn't. I think sometime next week we're going to have Dr. Alfred join us again, maybe on another Wednesday. A lot needs to be done. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you very much, Jude, for having me.
All right, Hello Port Harcourt wraps up this morning. Fantastic conversation. It is pleasantly beautiful to know that we have individuals who are also concerned, just as you are, about your child or your children. So, having 50 million naira, 20 naira school fees does not guarantee that child is going to be as successful as any other person anywhere else in this beautiful land of Nigeria. My name is Jude. Tomorrow, another day promises another round of conversations. Stay well. I'll be here with you tomorrow.